All right, Beers, I'm back from holidays and ready to tear into a delicious buy, hold, sell episode. Look, my team's been on fire, so I'm feeling pretty happy about this one. But let's jump right in. I'm going to throw one straight to you first off here. Ryan Matterson, 790K. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, I'm really good on Matterson. I know he didn't get the minutes last week with only about 52 minutes. A lot of Eels fans were left questioning why Andrew Davey came straight into the team and played a big minute role. And Matterson, well, look, he came on and dominated the game. He made about 250 meters, a bunch of tackles. He scored about 67 points in 50 minutes. So really, why didn't he get more minutes? To be honest, I think it was a flash in the pan. Maybe he was still recovering from the flu that he had the week before. He's a real pod, and he's probably one of the best mids you can get in the game. Not only does he play round 13 and 16, he has just keeper potential all year. Regardless, probably average 60 plus. Get him in your team. There's a couple of other Eels forwards that we probably want to mention as well. Hopgood, he's in the same boat. A lot of people got off him earlier in the year, but he's got the really friendly bye schedule. Rumours that he might play Origin, but I think that's a bit far-fetched. If you look at the Queensland depth chart, they're doing pretty well in forward, so I don't think Hopgood's going to make it. He's got the dual position, and again, with Junior out and RCG out during the Origin period, both of them will get big minutes. Get them both in your team. A next guy who could feature very heavily is Reece Robson. You're big on him, Longy?
Yeah, Robbo's kind of like that girl that you were planning to ask to prom, and she was a bit out of your league, and she sort of let herself go over the last month or two. So I thought Robson was that guy that was going to be the big target for me about a month ago, but he just has been sliding off the radar. He's had a few 50s in a row the last few weeks, but they haven't been as convincing as his early season form. So for the first month of footy, he was making 50 tackles a game like clockwork. Since then, it's been a bit more of a mixed bag of lower tackle counts, 9 missed tackles last week. Saying that, he's down to 702K, so it's probably about 150K off his peak there. I think he's crazy value at 702K, and my team right now is riding with Harry Grant and Brandon Smith, so no cover for round 13. So it's going to either have to be Reece Robson or potentially a guy like Damien Cook if he wasn't picked for Origin. Another guy that's floating around too is Jeremy Marshall-King, who's been in better form than all of them, but historically hasn't had that pedigree. So there's a few options there. Look, Robbo is a good one. But I want to see a bit more consistency from him before I make that move. But if I did have a spare 702K right now, I'd pull the trigger. I'll throw to you for Tohu Harris next. And look, serious value.
Serious value there. I'm a Damien Cook guy, and he's also on the downtrend. So I think if Cook makes Origin, Robson comes into my team in round 13 to cover those buys. Anyway, another great buy-round player is Tohu Harris. Now, he's bottomed out in price after having a couple of injury-affected games. He played 80 minutes last week. Will be up for a big minute role again this week. 658K. He's a guy who can average 60 when he's playing that 80-minute role. He plays round 13, but he doesn't play around next round. So it means you probably can wait a week. He's got a 50-odd break-even. He's probably going to hit it, but he's probably not going to fly over his current price. If you need mid-help this week, go get Tohu. But if you can wait a week and get him closer to the buy round, it's probably a better bet because a lot of people will have Tohu out next week, potentially Sean Johnston, a couple others. So just make sure if you're getting Tohu, you're planning for next week as well. But he's great value. Another guy in that price point is Corey Horsburgh. I know that, Longy, you got him in and you're now cheering, your team's going on the way up. He's another guy at that 650K mark who will probably average 55, 60. Spoken about for Origin, but I doubt he gets there as well. But yeah, they're two great mids who'll play around 13. Another guy who'll play around 13 is Dylan Brown. Now, you've been hyping him up. He's finally looking like he's hitting some form. You think he can keep backing it up?
Yeah, I bought him 2 months ago, and he's sort of posted 45 every week until the last 2 weeks where he's gone 76 and 75. So yeah, Brownie's that guy. He's not going to score below 40, basically, in every game. And he has that explosion potential because he's always running the ball. The other thing is Moses is out this week as well. And that's not a massive thing for Dylan Brown. He's probably going to do a little more kicking. He's probably going to do a little bit more first receiver stuff. But it normally doesn't help him that much. But I think the way he's playing right now and the way he played when Moses went off last week, it's going to make a big impact on his score. So, look, Brown's a guy at 712K. That's very cheap, considering he's gone 76, 75 in the last 2 weeks. You've had that big bump in price. He's still only 712. If you're going to get him, you got to pull the trigger this week. It's now or never. And the last guy, and he is the definition of pull the trigger this week or forget about it. Jack de Belin. You got any thoughts on him? Look, he's getting great minutes, great work rate, right?
Yeah, look, he's doing great right now. He's scoring 65 plus pretty much every game. He's getting 70-odd minutes. My only concern with him is Dragons continue to lose. They're chopping around the team every couple of weeks. Hook's under a lot of pressure, so who knows if he'll keep the coaching role. But look no further than last week to show how much Jack de Belin means to the current coaching side and management. He went off at the 70-minute mark. He came back on like 3 minutes later. They barely gave him a rest. I saw something similar for LeBron when he was playing for the Lakers today, where he got a 30-second rest. I'm not saying Jack de Belin is LeBron-level, but they clearly rate him. He's 720K, so it's priced about 51. He's probably going to be a 60 average player if he gets that 70, 75-minute role. So he also has a great buy schedule. Someone mentioned he might play Origin. There's close to zero chance I think Jack de Belin plays Origin. There's too much drama around his character, and I don't think Freddie will go there. And we're pretty good for locks with Murray, Yo, and those sort of guys. Gerbo. Get him in your team. He'll be solid. There's only a little bit of risk that he might lose minutes or go to the bench, but I highly doubt that unless something really drastic changes. But yeah, get him in your side.
Jack LeBron. That's what we're going to call him from now on.
Oh,
LeBron James with the NRL.
Yeah.
No, he's rock solid, though. He's absolutely rock solid. The same rationale behind when we bought McInnes, or if you didn't buy McInnes, but those guys, when they get 70-plus minutes, just with defensive work rate, offloads, meters, they're going to average 60. So, yeah, he's hot as.
I do have my LeBron jersey on right now, so,
You're the Belin jersey?
Jack de LeBron, yeah, exactly.
Love it. Next group here we got, look, these guys are not your LeBron James options. They're not mainstream. They're the big pods, so the guys that no one's talking about. And the first one here is Jaden Sewer. I'm going to sort of wash my hands at this pick here because you requested him to be added to this list, and I felt a bit sick typing it out. But, I mean, the value could be there. He's got 3 50-plus scores in a row. What's your rationale behind Jaden Sewer?
Well, you said it, 350-plus scores in a row, 80 minutes, edge. He's one of the few edges that play in round 13 that have value, and he's got a good buy schedule. Look, he's got low ownership. This is a pod, right? We don't want to say names here that every other podcast, every other talk show will be talking about. We want something unique, and we don't want to just throw random names out. But, Sewer, 350s in a row. He's getting the 80-minute roll again. They're going to need him to step up to get some wins under their belt. Good buy schedule. If you need an edge, like people are saying Sean Lane, but Sean Lane's like similar. Like he's even more expensive, similar buy schedule. I mean, we'll talk about Sean Lane, but historically he's had that 1 year where he's gone gangbusters. But other than that, he's kind of scoring like Sewer does. So if you're hot on Lane based on his last year's form, I don't know why you wouldn't be hot on Sewer based on his last few weeks. He could be, a guy that gets 45, 50 each week. But yeah, so yeah, I know you saw his name when I put it up and you were like, what are you doing this? Like, I ain't talking about this guy, but, putting it out there. But yeah, a bit more of a surefire hit is the next guy on this list, Scotty Drinkwater at 533K. Is he in your team, Longy?
Yeah, I mean, Drinkwater epitomizes what this list is about this week because they're attacking stat merchants here. So Sewer, Lane both rely on his attacking stats. Drinkwater relies on attacking stats. Like he's a guy who could score a double and not crack 40 for you. So, but he could also have that big explosion games where he gets 80 plus. For me, I'm not grabbing Drinkwater. There are guys in the latest section. We have a section called Soon, where there are guys who we're interested in for round 14 or maybe round 13, round 12, but not yet this week. So there's a couple of guys on that list I like better at wing fullback or center. So I'm going to cop the hit this week and probably start Alamotti and Talau, which is not great.
Talau.
I don't want to waste trades on center. There are better guys, trust me. But look, Drinkwater.
I know.
I'm not.
We don't talk about centers on this podcast. Longy, you weren't there for me last week, but I brought in Lomax and then he got dropped. So,
Lomax was a great one. People would have been buying him for sure last week.
59 points. I don't want to talk about Lomax again. I'm sad enough as it is.
Well, look, Drinkwater's not going to get dropped. If you think the Cowboys are going to bounce back, Drinkwater's kind of spicy. I'm not doing it, but if you did it, good on ya. Look, we talked Sean Lane as well already. Look, great buy schedule. You're counting on him and Dylan Brown clicking. I think there's a lot of upside there, but I'm not going to be doing it myself.
I mean,
And
did
then
you
Alex
see the last
Johnston,
play on Sunday? How he just stood there and gave the game up?
he was saving himself. He could have gotten 4 points in an offload there too.
Exactly. He's
Yeah,
saving
if he
himself
wanted
for the
to.
buys. Yeah.
He wants to lower his value a bit more. And Alex Johnston, Ruby Garrick. So these two guys we're throwing out there. But you threw Johnston on there, I threw Garrick in there. There's a 50K difference, so it might depend on your pricing. But they're both guys who we're not saying go buy these guys 100%. And I'll speak for you here. So we're saying that these are guys who, if they hit the right run of form, they could win you fantasy. But if they don't, they could absolutely be a plague to your team. So I'll speak on Garrick here. For Garrick, it's a good buy schedule. It's Tommy Turbo looking a bit more fit last week, maybe not getting picked for Origin, maybe feeding Garrick tries through the Origin period, maybe trying to play his way back into the team. Manly, I'm not fully believing in Manly, but Garrick's down about 150K. So you got to say the value's there, and you got to say he might bounce back. On Johnston, are you backing him? Because he scored, was it 2 tries on the weekend?
Yeah, I'm backing Johnston because Souths are playing great and they've had the hardest schedule by far. And the next few games are, they've got the Tigers in there, they've got the Eels in there who they usually butcher every time they play. They've got the Titans, the Dragons. Like they've played all these top tier teams and they're winning. Alex Johnston could easily score 2-3 tries a week, going into the next 5 or 6 games with a very friendly buy schedule. The only thing with that is, Latrell will be playing Origin, so there might be a couple of games where he's doing it without Latrell, and Blake Taft can do a job, but he's not Latrell feeding him, great ball from the fullback position. But, if you think these guys are too much risk for the price they're at, then you might actually look at their wing partners. So for Alex Johnston, it's Tane Milne, who's that 340K dual position. He historically averages 35. He's at 340K right now. So if you think, vice versa, that, he can score some tries, he could make you a lot of money. Ruben's counterpart, Saab, he's a bit different. He's not traditionally a good fantasy scorer, but he's priced at 299K. You're laughing, Longy, but I got Saab in last year at like 230K. And I sold him at 350 because he is very streaky. He's the type of guy who can go to 70, 75 and just launch his price. He's kind of like a less exciting version of Khan Pereira, you could say. But he's also a guy who can, he's scored 35 odd last week. You can get the price moving and get up to 400K and then, sell him off for a profit. Also plays around 13 and 16.
Because I'm laughing because I agree with you. So last week I grabbed Edric Lee and I was putting him in that loophole spot. And every week he was earning a spot in the 17. Every week he was scoring a try or two, making a big run. Jason Saab's exactly the same as Edric Lee. So, yeah, again, if you back Manly, which is a bit harder to do, I think Tane Milne's the better pick of those two. Which
agree.
you really
and dual
to,
position as well, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely helps. But Saab's, there's a reality where Saab works. That's what I'm going to say.
It's not a reality I want to be a part of, but
yeah, it's I want the reality where Tedesco scores what he's worth. That's what I want. Let's go to the next group here, cash cows. Saab didn't make this list. Tiny Milne probably should have made this list, actually, just thinking about it now. But let's just jump right in. Look, Oloapu, 250K. He's still on the bench, but you're backing the talent if you buy him. So he's getting 50 minutes a game, scoring in the 20s. He's just one of those guys where it's very clear the Dogs will start him at some point, and it's very clear his price is going to slowly increase until that point in time. So you can either wait for that eventuality, which is a near certainty, and buy him at 300K, 320K, 340K, or you can just do it now. Get him for 250, get him for the cash out price, and just sit him on your bench. That's what I'm doing. So I think that's a pretty easy one there.
Actually, just on that, Longy, quick question while you're discussing him. When do you think he starts? Do you reckon he can start this week? Dogs are losing. They went down early to the Raiders last week. Carl came on and they start scoring points. Do you think he could start as early as this weekend?
I don't think they will start him. I think the round 13 buy is so soon that they might wait for that. and they might wait for that week off to really just hammer in all the training, get everything right before round 14 starting of him, because he's a young guy and they have protected him so far. Saying that, they do have nice fixtures the next 2 weeks. So look, the Warriors are a solid team, but they're coming off a pretty tough loss. I think it's the Titans after that, who very exciting side, but not known for their defense. So they wouldn't be the worst fixtures to start in, but I think it's round 14. That's my prediction.
Yeah, okay. Great call. That's what we did.
And we'll try.
Longy the expert. Ex-champion.
just making speculations. But a speculation that did work, Bula, who we had as a firm buy, top of the buy list after his first game, he's been on fire. Do you think anyone doesn't have him at this point?
I mean, there's probably a handful of players who don't have him, but the good thing is it's not too late. Like, he looks like a 40-plus player. He looks like he's pretty firmly set into that Tigers fullback spot. I actually just took a punt on him before he even started a game because I traded Talau for him when he was 220K. I'm like, can't be any worse than Talau. Funnily enough, I see him in your list next, so I'll let you talk about Talau because I'm sick of this guy. But Dream Bula, look, the thing I like most about Dream Bula is he's made 2 try-saving tackles, game-winning try-saving tackles in back-to-back weeks. I mean, he made a brilliant tackle on Cleary to get that first win against the Panthers, and then again on the Dragons. At the end of last week's game, Sully didn't back himself, threw it out to the wing, crushed him over the side along with side Papali'i. That's what you love to see, and that's what coaches love to see. I think he's pretty set in fullback. You could probably have him as your backup fullback or even a starter for a lot of the year. He doesn't play around 13, unfortunately, but yeah, get him in your team. At 346K, he's a lot of value. He's like a more premium Sloan.
He's a starter for me right now. So he's there next to James Tedesco and Joey Manu. So and he's looking fine next to those guys. So yeah, no, he's a beast. And Tim Sheens has said that's my guy as well. The other thing is Charlie Staines is out for another, I think it's 6 weeks. Dane Laurie's playing halves and reserves. There really is no threat to him at this point.
Yeah.
So
well, I will say Dane Laurie, I just read a report this morning that apparently carved up the reserves. But in saying that, I've just seen so much hot press on Dream Bula. Like, they're calling this guy the superstar and whatnot. And, Valencia didn't make this list because he's got the bye this week. But they're kind of getting hyped up so hard right now. I can't see them being dropped anytime soon. But someone who could get dropped very soon is Tommy Talau at 220K. Come on, tell me about him.
That felt like a jab. Look, my rationale behind Talau. Look, every week we have a cash cows page, and every week I have to try and find 5 guys that are cash cows, and there's never 5 cash cows. There's never 5. There's
no, I get it. I'm just pushing you, bud. 220K dual position.
Let me complain because every week I have to put such garbage players on this list. Garbage fantasy, by the way. A lot of them are good in real life.
Talau, great potential. Yeah, when I say ugh, I don't mean Talau as a player, as a person. I mean his fantasy opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, we're not here to shit talk anyone in skills. I wouldn't run it straight now. But look, 220K, the reason he's on this list is he's a guy who's probably going to be a starter. Probably, maybe it's not certain, but probably going to be a starter somewhere in that Tigers backline. And he's minimum price. So you've got him. I think you've got Ben Trebojevic. You've got Hayes Dunster, who are all in that sort of price bracket.
Yeah.
Hayes could go at any moment for Sean Russell. Ben Trebojevic, he plays 15 minutes off the bench. Look, Talau's, if I had to make it work with, like, say, a 3-player trade, and I had to find someone for 220K to make the perfect other 2 trades work, I'd think about it with Talau. I probably wouldn't do it, but I'd think about it. So that's why he's on this list. He's got a bit of potential. He has to score tries to be effective in fantasy. And
I mean, Tigers on the way up could happen. Like, they're getting better. Like, they've, beat the Panthers and they beat the Dragons. Who knows? I mean, they got the South this week. That could be not a great week to get Talau, but it can't go down in price at least.
It could. Yeah, he's solid. He's solid. And then Billy Smith. Look, 361K. Can I talk on Billy Smith a bit before I hand that one over?
Of course, go for it.
Beauty. So Billy Smith, I look at his stats because something about him is not as appealing to me. 361K is a tricky price. You're backing him to be a bona fide mid-ranger at center. If he's 361, he needs to get to sort of 500K to be worthwhile. He doesn't play the round 13 major bye. He's averaged 36 points a game in games where he's played 60-plus minutes across his career. So 36, I look to it's not necessarily an increasing trend either. It's just some big outlier games, some really low games. I'm not that high on him. I think he probably keeps his spot, but you got to keep in mind too, we're 2 Roosters games away from Dan Tupou being back in round 14. Dan Tupou comes in probably for Corey Allen. And then the only other change you need there for him to lose his spot is that Joey Manu goes back to center. So Joey Manu goes back to center. That could hurt Billy Smith unless they move Suoli'i to the wing. I really should have created a visual for this. But there's a lot of risk to Billy Smith is what I'm saying in terms of him keeping his spot. He may not even be a good enough scorer to be making money anyway. And there's just so many other guys in this next section we're going to go through that are better options at center or at wing fullback in the next couple of weeks. So I'm skipping Billy Smith, but there's also a world where he could do well.
Yeah, look, I had Billy Smith to start last year, and the one thing I'll say on him is it seems the Roosters are generally pretty high on him. But I also think that he's probably one of the first ones. Sam Walker's not going to be out of the side for the rest of the season. I doubt Joey Manu's a 6 all year. So I think Billy Smith loses his spot. He's also injury prone, and like you said, he's up and down. Like he'll give you a 51 week and then 10 last week, and he's just one of those guys that I don't know. Like every time I watch him, he just looks like he's always limping or hurt, or he kind of has that Jackson Ford vibe about him. Like a couple of good scores, in a worse position, could get HIA'd at any given moment. So I'll pass on him. I mean, the next guy I think is a better shot. Also, Billy Smith doesn't play round 13 either. So I'm more on the Bailey Simonson type of guy here. I'll start with him, Longy, and let me know what you reckon. So, Bailey Simonson, let me just quickly talk about his positioning in the Eels team. Now, this is tricky because the Eels, Gutherson and Penasini and Sivo are the 3 guys who are locked in. They're not losing their spot. But the other 2 spots are a revolving door between Dunster, Simonson, Wonga Blake, Sean Russell. We've seen Isaac Lema play. There's a lot of names who can play there. Now, from all the comments Brad Arthur's made to date, Bailey Simonson is probably one of his favourites. Dunster has not been playing well in real life, and Sean Russell's been dropped. Wonga Blake looks like he's fallen out of favour as well. If you ignore all that, you have to make your own call on what that looks like. I think Bailey Simonson is actually quite safe, at least for the next few rounds, because he's actually been one of our better players over the last few weeks. Look, he actually scores really well at centre. He's had 3 games at centre that I can remember and record. One was the grand final against Penrith last year. He played 58 minutes and scored about 40 points. So he was on track for a 50-odd score at centre. He played centre against the Broncos for the first half. He played 43 minutes before he got knocked out. Eels were getting absolutely destroyed that game. And he scored 18 in about 40 minutes, so on track for 35+. And last week, in a pretty scrappy game, 40 score. So at 360K, he looks like he's going to be a 35 to 40 guy with upside for more, playing inside Sivo, and outside Lane and Dylan Brown. That's always a recipe for success. Now, it didn't translate well for Russell, but Simonson has a much better work rate. If you look at his games at centre, he's tracked on for 150+ meters each game. If he keeps his spot, he'll get dual position after round 13, and he plays the big buys. I'm looking at him for my team this week, if nothing else, but for just a guy who can plug in, in my 18 to 21, who I can fit into my top 17 when needed. But I think, if he keeps his spot, and that's the main thing, can he keep his spot at centre? Because he's not as effective on the wing, but at centre, I think he can average 35 to 40, maybe 40 to 45, but I'm just being conservative. He is a good cash cow with a good buy schedule. Now, Longy, I know we've not always been too happy with his form in real life. What do you think about him?
Centre makes sense. He's super athletic. He's a strong guy. He seems to defend better there. The decision-making doesn't seem as complex for him. Being outside of Sean Lane and Dylan Brown is a great place to be for him. I don't hate this. And as I've thought about this more and more, I've thought Simonson's better than Billy Smith, and no one is making that call. everyone's going Billy Smith. Simonson's going to be better. And then that's before you even factor in the fact that Simonson plays every bye round. So, no, I think you've covered it really well. I think he's a very good chance of keeping that spot. I don't think Michael Blake is beating the door down to come back. Sean Russell's not a centre. He's a winger. So, yeah, no, you're actually kind of talking me into it. That dual position as well is really nice. And you get him for every big round. That's the big thing.
Exactly.
Did you have 180 meters last week? 183?
160 odd, I think.
160, yeah.
Yeah, he made 160 odd. 2 scrappy try assists, but yeah, I mean the only thing about the dual position, he's not going to get that dual position until after round 13. So if you don't need a fullback for round 13, I'd probably look elsewhere. But once he gets that dual position, he'll be invaluable.
Yeah, and the players around him just draw so much attention. So he's going to crank out tries at some point. I like that. I like that a lot. I think he's a spicy one. Next group here we got. This is the soon section. So we haven't done this before, but this is guys who we're looking at for in a couple of weeks' time, as in keep them on your radar. I'm probably saving trades this week because I like these guys better than anything you can buy this week personally for my team. And let's start on these guys. So look, Jacob Kiraz is the first one. And Kiraz, from memory, I think he was up around 700K.
I think we talked about him at 650 and he was a good buy, and then he got injured. So
yeah,
good pick. I like it. I love it.
Yeah, I think it was 70K and then 60K in 2 weeks, just consecutively. So the injury week and the week he's come back from injury. But if you get him at 470K after the first major buy round, that's not bad at all. That's a guy who's keeper level, with the fact that the other guns haven't been firing. He's potentially a keeper. You're going to get him for basically nothing. So I'd be saving a slot and you wing fullback for Kiraz.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kiraz is also he didn't score that well last week. We got 30 odd, but he didn't look like he was 100%. I think if you wait till round 14 and he's done his bye, Kiraz could be a start. I think Bulldogs start getting players back. Adokar's back this week. The team will just generally get better. I think Kiraz at 500K, he'll be someone I'm definitely trying to bring into my team after his first bye.
And if his dodgy, not 100% score is 30 as a wing fullback, that's fine. That's elite tier. Another guy, actually, while we're on the dogs, there is Alamotti. So I'm not buying Alamotti, but if you still have Alamotti, like me, and
me,
he's worth keeping at this point. Like
you might as well keep him. Yeah, there's so many Dolphin centers away this week. Probably people are missing Connolly and Hammer, so you probably need someone to play. I'm going to play Alamotti this week. Hopefully, I don't have to play him next week. But the biggest thing for Alamotti is Josh Adokar's back. And you can see his scores correlate with Josh Adokar. It's easy to get assists inside Adokar and tries backing up his breaks and more play going down that way. So
and the D sag. They sag for Adokar.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't contain him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep Alamotti. Yeah.
I want to throw one at you here. Kalen Ponga, 402K. He's a guy who's dropping in price. And what do you need? So with Ponga, I'm going to throw 2 things at you here. Is it a certain price that you're waiting for on Ponga, or is it more that you need to see something from a scoring perspective, or is it a question of the eye test for you?
Well, I mean, the first thing I want to comment on is I love the photo you put here. You've got so many great achievements. So you choose to put one up with the trainer probably walking off the field. It's very nice of you, Logan. But the first thing, look, I am...
Nobody can see
it. Yeah. Bloody hell. I'm pretty soft on Ponga at the moment. I just think that he's still going to play Origin. I think he's just been such a stud for Queensland that unless he comes out and says, I'm not playing Origin this year, a la Latrell last year when he was trying to take care of his body, then he's going to be there. He does not look like he can handle 6. I think it's only a matter of time till he goes back to 1. I don't know when that is. If Ponga doesn't get picked, I'm going to pick up Ponga for round 13 because he's going to be that dual position guy. You're getting an elite superstar of the game at sub 400K. He's still got a 50 break even this week. He could fall to 350K, by the time round 13 comes along.
He's going to be in the cash cows.
He's going to be. It's crazy to think about, but you asked, and the second question was well, are you waiting to see something from him? I'm like, no, not really. I know what he can do. I don't think he's gonna. I'm not expecting a 50+ average from 6. I think if he goes back to fullback, he'll probably average 50. Like honestly, he's a gun there. But I'll take 35.
Yeah, would he go back to fullback though? Because Lockie Miller is better than Kellen Ponga this year.
I mean, is that because he's playing at 6 though? Like Lockie Miller is not better than Kalen Ponga. Like delusional Knights fans, I see their comments that they blame Ponga. I mean, like Ponga's not your problem. Like put Ponga in any other team. Like he's an absolute weapon. Like Lockie Miller is not better than Ponga. He's a workaholic who's got some ball skills. But he's not a game breaker. Ponga will win you games by himself. He's had a terrible run with injuries. Like you can't control that, right? It's not like he wants to go there and get knocked out every game. He wants to be there.
No.
I hate the Knights, but I love Kalen Ponga. Like he's a superstar. Knights fans are just straight up wrong about him. Ponga's not the problem. Yeah, he's getting paid a lot and he's had a bad injury run, but he's worth that money. He's $1 million player. I think if you can give him the move to 6 for me didn't make any sense. And I know Miles has come out with a video on Ponga a couple of weeks ago saying the same thing. Put him back at fullback. Just put Lockie Miller as a roving lock or something, or put him as a 6.
Just get 6.
Something like that. Ponga is your superstar. Or why would you move Ponga for Lockie Miller? Lockie Miller is a solid first grader, but he's not Queensland's fullback. You know what I mean? So,
you know what? Too. These are the most explosive edges Ponga's ever had as well. Like Ponga's gone around and made Hymo Hunt look good. Other guys in that sort of caliber of player. This year he's got Greg Marzu, Dom Young as his wingers. He's got Dan Gagai, Braden Best as his centers, Fitzgibbon and Frizzell on the edges, potentially Miller backing up on the inside. Imagine him on a sweep play in that situation. It is unguardable for the top position. So
absolutely. He hasn't looked good at 6, but why? They're not going to move him to 1 anytime soon. They're going to be 7. They hyped it up. They're not going to give up this quickly, but they need to. Just give him space to run. But anyway, this is just a different discussion. But Ponga back at fullback hopefully, but otherwise I'm still going to buy him if he doesn't make Origin, but I think he will. So it's probably a guy I won't touch till later in the year.
Yeah, I mean Walsh has been good. He's playing for Brisbane, so
yeah,
I think they might go Walshy over Ponga. But yeah, no, he's juicy for the later options. Jesse Ramien's the next guy here, and he's $497K right now. He's going to get a lot cheaper than that. He's going to drop into the mid to low 4s, which for a guy like Ramien, he's pretty consistently been around that 40 average across his career. He's got a consistent work rate. He runs the ball a lot. He's hard to tackle. He plays in a good Cronulla team. It's really that simple of a recipe. So you're just backing him to come back to his norm of his career because he hasn't been out of form necessarily. He just hasn't sort of had the ball fall his way this year. But yeah, for Ramien, I think he's a spicy option potentially after round 13. I probably want to see a little spike in scoring for him just before that to bring him in, but still at that price, he's a potential borderline keeper.
Yeah, and he's a good option compared to your pure centers, especially once he drops about 450K mark, like a Penasini and Tomoko are 600 plus. Like Ramien's that sort of guy who can get up to 600K and he's a good pod versus Connolly and Jack Bird, etc. 100, 200K cheaper than those guys.
Heaps cheaper. He's 300K cheaper than Bird if he gets down in the 4s. So yeah, and he started the year at 600. Tatola's next one I'm going to throw in there. Look, 437K. He's another guy who started 600 plus. Do you have any strong feelings on Tatola through the Origin period or more generally?
Yeah, I think I spoke about Tatola in a bit of detail last week, so I'll keep it brief this week because really the only thing that changed is he didn't score too well on the weekend. But really, reality is the Rabbits are playing with 3 or 4 forwards on the bench and big minute forwards starting. But Tatola's also a guy that, once he gets to 40, 45 minutes, he's going to score 40, 45 odd points, if not more, if he gets higher minutes. So if you're happy to take him now to just score what he's priced at, like 30 to 35, which is what he gave you last week, then come round 13, come round 16, or, the Rabbits buys when Murray's not there, when Arrow's not there, when Cookie might not be there, Colin Matangi might not be there if he gets picked for Origin down the track when he comes back. Tatola could go back to that 50-minute mark pretty quickly and score 45 plus. So he'll be gunned during that period. So even if he's not doing great now, you can probably get him in this week, next week, or just before round 13 and cop some 30, 35s and get some really good scores. Because Murray and guys, those guys won't play 70 minutes backing up after Origin. Like Murray's probably going to play 40, 50 minutes, and that'll mean Tatola plays an extra 10, 15 minutes. So also just working way back through injury. So he's a hold for me and no real change to my outlook on him.
It's a good price. It's a good price to get him low fours. That's delicious. And that's the value you got to look for. A lot of these guys we're talking about are guys that, are worth 650 that you're getting for 450, 350 kind of thing. So that's where you win the game, especially through the buys, because you need a deeper team through the buy rounds. Like you're just always going to have guys not available for a variety of different reasons. So yeah, it's juicy. Last guy here, Isaiah Papali'i, and look, he's dropping in price right now. Sorry, mate. For those who don't have him,
which is most people, he's got like 5% ownership, and I'm one of the chums who are sitting with him right now.
Oh, it started well. It started well, and it
started great. Cook, Murray started great. My team was in the top 50, and then Cook, Murray, and Papali'i decided to go to the Philippines with you on holiday, and just slide. I want to be in the bottom 50,000 soon.
So the lesson there is to trade your keepers, mate. Just move your keepers.
Trade your keepers when your podcast partner goes on holiday, in case they go with you. Yeah.
Well, my team enjoyed the holiday, but look, Papali'i, he could be in the 600s pretty soon. If I can get him for 680k in round 14, if I got him, Kiraz, and Ponga for, players who aren't particularly crazy, that would be very exciting. That would be something special. And look, Papali'i is Papali'i. Look, he's suffered an attacking stat regression, not being at Parramatta, with the worst move he's made in his career. He's still playing good footy. He won't be recognised for it as much being on the Tigers, but
he's only scored two. There's only two. I'm just sending you the stats. He's only had 2 scores below 50, so it's not like he's scoring poorly. He's just, unfortunately, those 2 scores under 50 came at the same time, so his break even's copping a hit. But other than that, he started the year really well: 60, 50, 78, 60, 55. So,
but he doesn't have, because at Parramatta he had those games where he was scoring 2 tries. Pretty frequently, but he was getting those opportunities because Parramatta make a lot of breaks. He was getting those dummy half tries against scattered defense. He was getting a lot of nice balls. Like, he's not getting that as much at the Tigers, and they're putting together more. But
they're improving, so that's why you've got him soon. By round 14, if they can keep improving, then he's going to go back there. I'm not going to trade him. He's still a keeper at a tricky edge position. Yeah, I agree with you. Get him in at round 14. Once his buy is out of the way in 13, he'll probably bottom out. It's perfect timing.
It's all upside because all the risk is priced out at that point, and that's what you're looking for. Last group here is the hold or sell question. So they're ambiguous, a lot of these guys. Some of them aren't that ambiguous, but look, Cam Murray's the first one, and I'm going to throw a few of these to you because this is most of your team.
I have, what the hell? This is 4 out of no, actually, I have every single one of these players, which just probably shows you why I'm sliding at the moment.
I've only got Preston and Hynes, but look, Cam Murray, I'll throw to you first. I mean, he was almost on my leader list, but he misses round 19 and round 20 because of Origin and a buy. So you can't buy him as an overall player.
You can't buy. I'll talk about Murray and Cook in the same breath because they're both going to make Origin. Murray definitely. Cook, I'm 95% sure he'll make Origin. Souths have an elite buy schedule, but not if you're an Origin player because you miss. Yeah. So you're going to be playing Origin in the key rounds, like the main buy rounds, and then you're going to be having your buys outside of those rounds. So you're going to miss like 4 or 5 games in a 10-week period. So I'm going to have to trade Murray and Cook. Hold them if you got them, unless you want to. Like I think, especially this week, a lot of players have Dolphins missing from their team. Keep Murray and Cook. They've got the Tigers this week, but round 13, trade them. Like I'm going to hold Murray and Cook as long as I can because even though they're on their own slide, they've got that 100+ potential, and that's what I bought them for, and that's what I really need from them. Like they're really reasons why I'm sliding right now. So Murray and Cook, a farewell gift, please, in the next couple of weeks. Like before I trade you in round 13, a couple of 75s versus the Tigers. When the Eels, they should dominate the Tigers, and they always crush the Eels, sadly enough. But so I think they'll get 2 big scores before I sell them. But yeah, hold them until round 13, but do not keep them round 13 and after. I mean, we can cover all these guys pretty similarly. Haas is kind of in a similar boat. Do you have any thoughts on him?
I think he could be more of a hold, just because
He's more of a hold, yeah. A bit better buys. The reason I wanted Haas on here is because his minutes could be managed because the Broncos are doing so well. The same with Murray and Cook. They don't need to back up because they're coming first and second.
But Haas isn't relying as much on minutes as he has previously because he's having a lot more of those big attacking stat sort of games. So he seems to be attacking on the edge a bit more, getting more offloads like that, getting more attacking involvements. I don't have Haas, but of that group, he's probably the one I'd hold, most likely.
No, I agree.
The other guy we didn't mention here, but you did mention him when we were chatting before, was Latrell Mitchell as well. So give Latrell, he's probably a sell just with the injury history, the buyer schedule, the fact that he will be carrying the Blues in Origin.
And a good replacement in Blake Taft that, they don't have to rush Latrell back in. So I think it goes with if you've got any South's Origin players, they're just going to miss a ton of games over the next 10 weeks. So keep them until round 13 because they're on great form, or even if they are in real life, maybe not in fantasy, but round 13, if they're in the Origin team, see you later.
Yeah, then a couple of non-Origin players potentially. So Preston here as well. I've got Presto, and I'm sitting on Presto a little longer. I like the Warriors and the Titans as his next two fixtures. And if he plays well in those games, I might hold him through the Origin period, potentially. He's a bit like Alamotti for me. So it'll depend a bit. He's sort of in that area.
I would agree. He's another guy I'll just keep till round 13. And if you need a player in round 13, you can trade him. Otherwise, you can keep him. He's scoring 40s, 50s. He's not, priced too crazy. He's going to probably beat his break even this week. But the only reason I have him as a sell or a hold or sell is because there's an argument that he's probably close to his peak in price and doesn't play 13. So if you need a round 13 player, trade him in round 13. If you don't need a round 13 player, keep.
Oh yeah, and 60 with the double is not great last week either. So,
but last week was also. One of his tries was not like a barge over try where he carried 6 people. So
still he's tricky, but I'll hang on for a bit. And then Nico Hynes, last one there, and Nico Hynes is a hold. I've had a few questions about selling him, and you're banned from the channel if you ask me that again.
When he averages 80 points, of course he's going to have one low game here and there. They got crunched and he still scored 38.
Yeah, 38 with doing nothing. But the thing is, you want Nico Hynes and Nathan Cleary in your team because Cleary last week he scored 90 without many attacking stats at all. He didn't score a try or anything. Nico's been getting it done all year. I'll be captaining Nico Hynes this week as well. So we're not going to do a captain's video, but Hynes is the guy, and I've got Cleary. Right? Don't follow last week's big scores. Look at this week, and Manly without Jake Trbojevic, they're an attacking roster who cannot defend.
Is that who they're playing? I had no idea. Are they actually playing Manly this week? This is brilliant.
They're playing Manly.
Hynes is going 600 plus.
I think so. And Cronulla, what that game?
Yeah, they're going to bounce back. They're a great side. They're not going to. Most good teams bounce back from a big loss with an even bigger win. I can see a bit of a bloodbath coming here. Blood in
also, you want to know who outscored Hynes last week in his game? Cody Nikorima, Isaiah Katoa.
I played both of them, so.
Oh, you're happy then.
I
sold Katoa last week.
I'm selling Katoa this week. Anyway. Yeah. Katoa and Nikorima, neither of them are sells, by the way. So I need to sell one of them to find a player this week, and Katoa is the one that's peaking in price. Still got more to go, but
they're popping. They keep their spot.
They look great. Yeah, they look great. Anyway, pray for me, Longy. I'm sliding, so pray for my guns to actually play like guns this week. So Cook, Murray, Papali'i, come on, boys, do it for me.
You'll bounce back. You're due to bounce back. And look, everyone, next video we're going to do, we'll have this posted really soon as well, is a look into the best guys for the bye rounds. So we're going to look at that top 5 teams. We're going to look at the top players from each of those teams and just who you should be targeting for the bye rounds. The other thing is there's some differences this year in terms of the way the rosters work in bye rounds. So make sure you watch that next video because if you get caught out, it's going to really screw you over. Anyway, that's buy, hold, sell for this week. So we'll see you on the next video. And drop your trades into the comments and let us know who you're captaining.